Thank you, Dr. Harshal, for your very kind words. My talk is, despite all the care that you may have taken, you may still end up with a few problems post-operatively and what you can do to fix these problems. So we'll discuss about repositioning misaligned toric IOLs. I have no financial interest. Now, there can be many reasons why you end up with a problem and some residual astigmatism in your post-op period. You could, of course, have had a problem in your pre-op measurements. There could be incorrect marking of reference points, and either because of incorrect marking or for any other reason you may have placed the IOL along the wrong axis. There may be a failure to take into account the surgically induced astigmatism, which is being talked about in detail, or the thing that is again also being talked about is the patient's posterior corneal curvature. And there are quite a few studies that have been done recently about the patient's posterior corneal curvature that may add to the total toricity of the cornea. A posterior corneal curvature is normally against the rule, and therefore, of course, the aim that you have is to leave the patient with zero cylinder. But if you have to choose between with the rule and against the rule, it is better to leave the patient a little with the rule. One, because of the posterior corneal toricity that adds against the rule. Second, because most patients would tolerate a with the rule astigmatism better than they would tolerate an against the rule. And finally, because in all these aging eyes, there is anyway a gradual against the rule shift in the cornea, even when you have had a cataract surgery with a temporal incision. So if you have to choose between leaving the patient a little with the rule versus against the rule, it is better to leave a little with the rule. Then once you've finally ended up in a problem, you have to decide whether IOL rotation is the right option to do or not. So you must make sure that once you rotate the IOL, it will result in improvement of the cylinder as well as the expected refraction. And then whatever way you calculate this, the residual refraction after rotation of the IOL should be 0.5 diopter astigmatism or less. If even after rotating you calculate it will be sort of 1 diopter or something, then it is not very useful. And some people have described rotating the toric IOL on the slit lamp. I don't think it is recommended at all. It is better to do it in the operation theatre with standard sterile techniques. So like Dr. Chawla had mentioned, there is this website called astigmatismfix.com where you can put in your values about the refraction that you have now in the post-operative period, the toric IOL model that you have put in, at which axis you have put it in, and it will give you, the toric results analyzer module will tell you how much the IOL needs to be rotated, and after rotating this will give you, this is the your current axis, this red one is the axis where you have to place it, and what will be your expected residual refraction after you have rotated the IOL. So once you have all this data, you can go ahead and plan your IOL rotation, and you will get a printout like this, which you must take with you to the OT, just like you do for the toric calculators. And here it also gives a graph that this is the exact axis where the cylinder would be expected to be almost zero, and if it is off axis, then this is the expected residual refraction. Now there are many futuristic equipments that are either already available or in the pipeline, which will help you in these kind of things. One is the Discovery system from Innovative Visual Systems. Again, here you can put in your current data, the IOL intended axis, this is what you had actually intended. Then you put what you have now, and then you have to rotate, and it will also give you a simulated image as to what the patient is seeing now and what the patient will see later. Of course, all these diagrams are very convincing for you as well as for the patient to convince him that, okay, what I'm going to do will be useful for you. So these machines, they will give you the same kind of information that you get from the website also, but in a more graphic fashion, and it is also very useful as a display for the patient. So this Discovery system is a combination of aberrometer, corneal topographer, autorefractor, retroillumination camera, pupillometer, and there are many such machines which are coming up with these multifunctions now. Then you have to decide when to rotate. It should not be done before 2 weeks because you want your refraction to stabilize, and it should not be done beyond 3 to 6 months because of the fibrosis and other problems that may have set in. And the ideal time is between 2 to 4 weeks when there is some stickiness that is already developing because of the fibrosis that is initiated. So you hope that rotating it will not be difficult, but at the same time, wherever you place, it will stick there and stay there. Now, once you are doing a second time, even the first time you want your IOL to be perfectly aligned, but the second time, of course, it is even more crucial. And these things I'm only talking about because these machines are now, some of them are already available in the Indian market, some of them will be available in the next 1 or 2 years. So it is a good thing to know about these for good alignment. Now, whatever we have followed till now is marking the reference axis on the slit lamp, then marking the axis under the operating microscope and putting it along that axis that has already been talked about. But now you have methods where you can take a pre-operative photograph of the anterior segment in the retroillumination mode. And like you have for LASIK, most machines would have some form of iris registration to avoid the problems because of the cyclotorsion of the eye in the supine position. So similarly, you can use it for cataract surgery. So you have either iris imaging based methods, which is the hard straight Osher toric alignment system or the Hoya eye trace, or the limbal registration methods, which is the SMI that is available from Alcon, Zeiss and True Vision. Or you can also use intraoperative aberrometry either in the static way, which is the WaveTech ORA, or a real-time dynamic intraoperative aberrometry, which is the HOLOS, which is not even commercially available in the US now, but will probably be available in the next Academy meeting. So this is the Osher toric alignment system, which you use with hard straight slants. This is based on iris registration. This is the Hoya eye trace. This is commercially available. The company has taken demos at many centers and has also started selling in India. This is a ray tracing wavefront aberrometer. So the company claims it is a good aberrometer because of the ray tracing principle, and it combines aberrometry with corneal topography, with autorefraction, pupillometry and autokeratometry. And it also has a software, like already has been mentioned, and these Aldiver calipers for aligning the toric IOLs. And this machine also actually gives you angle, kappa angle, alpha values, etc. So you can decide whether a multifocal IOL would, it actually tells you whether a multifocal IOL is a good option in this patient or not. Then you have the SMI, which is actually manufactured by Sensomotoric Instruments, bought over by Alcon now. This is also commercially available now in India. And this gives you this kind of a transparency within the microscope, and you can align your system IOL according to this. This is based on limbal and iris registration, and it recognizes 250 points in the image. You can either put this image into the microscope and you can look through that grid while you're doing the surgery, or you can have a separate dedicated monitor which will show you the grid and your toric IOL alignment. It also helps in measuring the size of rixes, which sometimes is crucial because you want the even in toric IOLs, you want the rixes to just be covering the margin to avoid any post-op rotation. It also helps in placing of incisions and centering of IOLs, like already mentioned with multifocal IOLs. There are various screen transparencies available from different companies which you can incorporate from the microscope. With the Zeiss Opmi Lumera, you already have the Z-Align Toric Assistant, which again helps in aligning the IOL. This is not yet available commercially in India, but many people use it in the West. This is a refractive cataract toolset available from True Vision. It actually gives you three-dimensional computer-aided guidance application for cataract surgery, and this is also based on limbal and iris registration. It is, however, claimed that in limbal registration, if you're basing on, many people actually do it without these equipments, that they look at episcleral vessels preoperatively and take photographs, and then they take a photograph post-operatively. But during surgery, these episcleral vessels may constrict because of your dilating drops if you're using epinephrine, etc. So the vessels may not be that exactly the same as they were preoperatively. Then you have the intraoperative aberrometry based systems. One is the WaveTech ORA, which was earlier called Orange, which is a static aberrometry. Again, this is commercially available. It actually gives you the intraoperative aberrometry. So, especially if you've had a previous keratorefractive procedure in the eye, then these systems are useful because it will tell you whether your aberrations are actually being reduced after you have placed the toric IOL. So even during surgery, once you have placed the toric IOL, it will give you an aberrometry picture, and you can see whether rotating the toric IOL will help in further reducing the aberrations. And this is in the pipeline. This is not yet commercially available. This is the dynamic intraoperative aberrometry, where it is claimed that you actually don't have to do any, all this marking, etc. preoperatively will become irrelevant because you can put the IOL and you can see how the aberrometry is changing with your rotation, and then you can finally select that position which gives you the least, which gives you a zero cylinder on the table. And these are more useful in cases like where you had post-refractive surgery, etc. Then after you've decided that the IOL rotation is going to help you, how do you do it? You first open up your, make a side port and inject viscoelastic as usual, and put the viscoelastic between the anterior rixus margin and the IOL so that it becomes loose and the IOL can be rotated. And it is best to do rotation through a side port so that you can maintain the anterior chamber, but if needed, of course, you can open the main incision again and then seal. There's just one small video. This is a video of Dr. Sanjay Chaudhary because I didn't have a video of IOL, post-operative IOL rotation. So here the axis has already been marked, and this is a side port. I'm using this video with his permission. This is a side port that has been opened. This is the second side port, and like the Acrosoft toric IOL is more sticky and therefore it may stay, it is likely to rotate less in the post-op period, but at the same time it is more difficult to rotate if you actually want to rotate it post-operatively. The plate haptics, I have no idea about the plate haptic IOL that was talked about earlier, but most plate haptics like star, toric, etc. would be easier to rotate. So once you've opened up, then you rotate the IOL and make sure again that you don't leave any viscoelastic behind the eye, and seal the incisions. In the end, of course, if you realize that the IOL rotation is not going to help much because of either other factors like have been mentioned that the disc is tilted, or there are other causes of astigmatism within the eye, and also like it was mentioned, posterior corneal curvature plays a role when you see that your corneal astigmatism, keratometry based astigmatism, is very different from your refractive astigmatism. So not all of it may be lens reduced, that it will be removed once you have removed the cataract. So in those cases you have to be very, very careful. And once you realize that IOL rotation will not help, then you can either do an LRI, which still gives good results, even though they may change over a period of time, but they give you a good result at that particular point of time and the patient is satisfied and happy. Or you can go in for excimer-based refractive laser correction, but here it is recommended that you wait even after you have done the yak capsulotomy at 3 months, because you are rotating the toric IOL, and then do the excimer-based, because it is a toric IOL, and then do the excimer-based surgery. And then light adjustable IOLs that are now coming, and like it was mentioned, counseling is extremely important. So sometimes you may have to do glasses, and there are various studies that have shown that even after the best possible care that has been taken, at least 20 to 25% people still have to use glasses sometimes, even for their distance vision. So it is very important that in counseling you inform the patients that they will be not dependent on their glasses for most of their activities, but sometimes for very fine vision they may still have to use glasses, so that they are more willing to accept that after the surgery. Thank you.